The only role you need to play is you. So I've realized one thing, which is that I'm far too serious in this course, and I'm actually not a very serious person. But somehow when you're sitting recording in front of a laptop, everything starts to sound a little bit too serious. So let me see if I can lighten up a little. This section is a really important one because all the people that I coach, we just spend so long talking about the world's expectations and the voices that we have in our head around who we think we should be. Most of us get told growing up that you shouldn't think that you're special and different. That's seen as a criticism. But I want to tell you otherwise. You are special and you are different. And that means that your path is going to be unique. So, I want to tell you about a conference that I held in 2012. So the author of Lawyers as Changemakers and Lawyers as Peacemakers, Kim Wright, I invited her to South Africa, and she and I held a small conference for legal professionals from all different parts of the legal profession. So we had advocates and attorneys and mediators and one or two magistrates, which is kind of a judge from the lower courts. And one of the exercises we did with them was ask them if they could find one word to describe their purpose in the law. And it was really interesting because people looked really nervous, first of all, as we asked them to try and find one word, and we made them do this exercise in complete silence. And then I listed the words on a flip chart, and here they are. You may be able to read some of them, but it's my handwriting on a flip chart from many years ago, so I'll read some of them. Integration, integrity, non-violence, lawgiver, curiosity, justice, value, fairness, healing, teach, inclusion, integrate, defend, being, truth, authentic, enlighten. So that's not all of the words on there, but what we realized is that these words also reflect the many purposes of the legal system. And when we had each person explain their word, it was incredibly moving because we had all these different voices, and it was like a symphony of the different aspects that are necessary to create a really holistic legal system and a legal profession. So we need each of these parts in order to have a balanced whole. So we need lawyers who are warriors, who absolutely are committed to going to battle for truth and justice. But we also need lawyers who are healers and who are peacemakers and who understand the import of being a storyteller. Because so often what people are looking for when they end up in court is actually a chance to tell their story. And there's been a considerable amount of research showing this. So we need lawyers who are designers and who are problem solvers and who are facilitators. And I guess what all of the research is showing that is done around integrative law and the dissatisfaction with the current legal system is that we need lawyers who have the flexibility to move from one role to another. So lawyers who aren't only warriors, but also understand when it is time to be a facilitator or a designer. You need flexibility depending on what circumstances require. So some of you might already have some idea of what your word may be, and others of you may be, feeling panicked and horrified that you have no idea, and it's okay. Just look at this list and know that the profession requires an infinite number of different roles within it, and know that you can find the role that is authentic to who you are as a person. Now, some of the things that you might want to think about are your values. And remember, in another section, I referred you to the Barrett Value Center and the PVA, Personal Values Assessment. And that's one great tool for starting to get a better idea of who you are at this point in your life. Then there are various strength finder surveys and personality surveys that you can do. Some are better than others, so do your research and don't take anything as a gospel given truth. It's part of your unfolding understanding of who you are, and some things will resonate and some not. Look at your culture, look at your history, your entertainment. Like, what do you find fun? What do you spend hours on when you get free time? How are you known by others? And then look at what are your expectations of yourself and of the world. Look at the attitudes you have towards things, different habits that you might have. Look at your beliefs. Think about what you know, in inverted commas, to be true. So just start kind of mapping and playing out. And how you spend your free time is going to be a good indicator of what is really exciting to you. And now the all-important Venn diagram. You may have seen this one before. It's a really good one. So This shows that our evolutionary purpose, what we are here to do, is the intersection of these 4 circles. So the first one is what you love, then what the world needs, then what the world will pay for, and then what you do well. And what we're all looking for, the sweet spot, is the intersection. So you'll see that if you manage to get what you love and what the world needs, that'll give you a vocation. What the world needs and what the world will pay for is charity. What you do well and what the world will pay for can create a career. But then what you do well and what you love, you need passion in there as well. So somehow we're looking for all of these things together. And you'll also see there that the intersection brings you satisfaction, comfort, contentment, and fulfillment. It's a really good diagram to kind of play with, but when you're applying for your next job, don't just think automatically, wow, I need to tick all of these blocks, because that's a really tall order, but it's definitely a framework that you need to keep in mind. The bigger picture as you move through and start developing a career and just a vision, an inkling of what is possible in the world. And then a word of caution is that you have to remember to do what excites you, because excitement is like our internal GPS system. It says you're going in the right direction. It does not mean that life is just going to continuously be exciting. And there are many parts of our lives, and, for example, qualifying and being at law school and then doing articles and having to do exams, that is not like, exciting every single day. But the fact remains that you are never going to succeed at something that bores you. So if you are in a job that bores you stiff, you're in the wrong job, and you may need to start looking at shifting and changing. It doesn't mean dump everything and that, change fields entirely, but it does mean if you feel consistently bored, you're in the wrong place. You need to do things that excite you, because that's what you will do well at. Now, you can look at this image. I never got rights to use it. I've had it for years. I think it could be from a US or Canadian law firm, and I hope that one day somebody's not going to sue me for this. But all I want to simply say is that in some environments, it can be tricky to uncover your authentic self. I did articles, your period of internship at a large firm. And so I don't want to knock big firm life, because I still feel it was overall an important part of my journey. It's where I qualified as a lawyer. I learned so much, so I don't regret it. But I can say that some parts of it were torturous, and that my levels of anxiety were incredibly high. The feeling that I didn't belong, that I was an imposter, that I needed to wear a mask to go to work and show up and be some lawyer in the world that felt like a persona. It didn't feel like who I was. And some of you, I hope, well, I don't hope, but that some people watching this may be in that position. And what I do hope is that you can draw comfort from the fact you are not alone if you are at a law firm and feeling like you have to put on a suit and a mask and go and be somebody you're not, and that actually everybody is feeling that. Well, everybody except a very few disconnected people within the law firm. So you're not alone, and there are ways to move through that, but it is going to take some work. So some environments make it a lot harder than others to be your authentic self. The legal profession was designed by men for men, and that's not a judgment, it's just a fact. 100 years ago, women had to fight to be allowed to practice law. They were seen as incompetent and inferior and emotional, and some of the judgments, they're hilarious if you read them now, but painful when they talk about how women do not have the temperament or the intellectual capacity to be lawyers or judges. It's quite hectic when you look at it from today's lens. So the fact remains that there is a lot of work to be done in creating a better, balanced profession in every way imaginable. And so I wish to ask everybody who is taking this course, whatever you choose, however many roads you travel, I hope that you choose not to be a lady. I hope you will find some way to break the rules and make a little trouble out there. And I also hope that you will choose to make some of that trouble on behalf of women. When I started my legal career back in 2004, I was acutely aware of my limits. So as I mentioned, I did articles in a big firm, And I suffered from very high levels of anxiety. And a lot of it I can see now came from comparing myself to lawyers who'd been in the profession for ages. So I didn't compare myself to my peers necessarily, but to people who were way ahead of me, and I constantly felt inadequate and like I didn't know anything. And although I did have some mentors in the firm, I really lacked women mentors because there were so few in senior positions. And I didn't have women that I could talk to about the inner experience of practicing law and creating a career, this sort of inner journey of what it felt like to practice law. So in terms of the external one, how to draft a contract, there were plenty of mentors there, but no help with the internal stuff. And I felt lost. I felt like I could play the game, but that being a big firm lawyer just wasn't who I really am. And so I left and I ended up running from the law and went to run a college for students from impoverished areas. And I found work that really fulfilled my soul. And then I realized that you can do work that fulfills your soul. And then the journey continued to see how I could return to having law in my life, but also do something that was soul fulfilling. And that's another whole talk of how that evolved. But that Venn diagram definitely played out because I was finding pieces of it, but not at the same time in the same role. I think our culture still imposes a lot of limits on women, but I've realized there are also a lot of limits on men. They're just different ones. And in terms of not having access to anyone talking about the internal journey of being a lawyer, that stands for men and women. So whether you're a man or a woman who is watching this course, I hope that you are open to seeing that your actual possibilities are immense and so much more than the world around you has given you to think about. When you're following a path of listening to your true desires, you will love and wrestle with this truth. You can't plan an inspired life. That thought comes from the extraordinarily funny and zany book called Inspired and Unstoppable by Tamer Keeves. I've got it right here. This is the book. And it's brilliant. But my only caution is that it's written by someone who actually left law school or left early practice, I can't remember which, and became a writer and a coach encouraging people to do extraordinary things with their lives. So I don't want you to read it and have everyone quit law. That's not the point. But I want you to take away from this that you're not going to be able to plan your way to a life you love in the law. It is going to unfold. So Tamer Keeves explains that we all have our dreams for a reason. And I'm going to leave you with these words of hers from the book Inspired and Unstoppable. I'm asking you to choose to believe that you have your dreams for a reason, and that an activating energy which feels like instinct will impel you every step of the way. You may not have conviction automatically, and you probably won't have it consistently. This is a life practice. It takes dedication to intensify trust. That's why I'm asking you to lean into this essential realization, practice it and take it for a test drive, even as your own revolutionary research. Here's what I know. This one core belief that you have your dreams for a reason can rock your world. And choosing not to believe it also rocks your world, but not in a way I wish for you. It's an immensely funny read, as I said. It's written in a kind of kooky way, but it really can help when you're feeling stuck, like everything feels all too serious and you're unable to find your way, to just remember that you are inspired and unstoppable. That's what I believe.